Welcome everyone. It is 2 o'clock for the special city council meeting, Friday, August 21st, 2020. Minnesota statute 13D.021 allows for the meeting to be conducted by telephone or other electronic means. Under the following conditions, the mayor has determined an in-person meeting or a meeting conducted under 13D.02 is not practical due to a health pandemic. The mayor and all councilors participating in the meeting can hear one another and all can hear discussion. Everybody that will be at today's meeting for the mayor and councilors are in attendance. We do have attendance availability both online and here in the council. All votes will be conducted by a roll call vote. First item on our agenda is a roll call. Please note that Councilor Kraus is absent due to a medical appointment. New business. I have set this meeting to in order to receive a petition for an ordinance change that would go to the electors on the ballot November 3rd, 2020. City Administrator, do you want to give a brief discussion about background on the proposed ordinance and the process to move forward?
Yes, I can do that. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, in your packet materials, we've included a number of informational pieces of, including the resolution that was be before you for action today, and that resolution is titled Resolution Setting the Terms for an Election Initiated by Petition to Enact an Ordinance to Allow Chickens in the City of International Falls. So the city charter in section 25, I believe, indicates that persons can petition the city council for an ordinance on their own action via the petition. In order for the petition to be considered a valid petition, it needs to include at least 5% of the votes cast in the last preceding election, and it would be the number of votes that were cast for all candidates for the position of mayor. So in this case, we had 2,747 votes total cast for mayor in 2016, and 5% of that number is 138 valid signed signatures on a petition. There's also a provision that if more than 15% of the people voting in the preceding election for mayor, if it exceeds 15%, and that number is 413 signatures, then the council has the option of adopting the ordinance as it was included in the petition. But in this case, we had done, and I've included a certificate of sufficiency at the end of the resolution, which shows that a total of 164 signatures were submitted on the petition. There were 2 strikeouts, I believe, because they were not within the city limits proper. And then there were 12 signatures that had the ward left blank, but staff had looked at the addresses and had confirmed the location of each of those signatures and which ward they were. And we had some people signing from Center Ward, West Ward, and East Ward that just inadvertently, or because they didn't know, didn't include their ward in their signature on the petition. So at a minimum, we have a number of 150 signatures, and 150 constitutes 5.46% of the total votes cast for mayor in the preceding election. So I have issued a certificate of sufficiency indicating that there's sufficient signatures on this petition for the city council to consider moving forward. And again, in section 25 of the city charter, it specifies that the council can set a special election, which would be on the same date as the general election of November 3rd, for the voters to consider this ordinance. And specifically, the ordinance again has been drafted to allow chickens in single-family residential districts in the city of International Falls. And so the resolution form includes a resolution that has some findings. It includes a notice of election which specifies where the ward polling places are. And again, West Ward is at St. Thomas Aquinas Hall, Center Ward is at Bob Walls Memorial Union Hall, and the East Ward voting location or polling place is the Evangelical Covenant Church. And so that's included in here, and we have a city question, and this is an official election ballot, and it's been framed in a way that complies with the state rules as it applies to special elections and ballot questions. And I've confirmed this with the county auditor, who sent a confirming email this morning that this he didn't have any concerns with the information that has been drafted for you to consider and was submitted for his review. And the specific city question 1 will read, the title for it is Ordinance to Allow Chickens in the City of International Falls. And it says, do you vote for the ordinance to allow the keeping of chickens in the City of International Falls, Minnesota, as submitted by petition of electors? And then the proper response for that is either yes, if you agree and want to vote for that ordinance, or no, if you do not agree and do not want to have an ordinance to allow the keeping of chickens in the city. So that's the way the city question is framed, and those forms are both part of the resolution for you to consider adopting today. Attached to the resolution is an Exhibit A, which is the actual proposed ordinance, and then a copy of the petition to enact the ordinance to allow chickens in the City of International Falls. I would note that each page that was signed by persons signing the petition included a copy of the ordinance on the back side of the petition. So every page that was signed included an actual copy of the ordinance so that people understood what the petition was for and what they were actually signing and acknowledging to. And again, we have at least 150 signatures that meet the 5% standard. So with the certificate of sufficiency that I've included in here, which is also an exhibit and attachment to the resolution. So we're asking that the City Council consider adopting this in accordance with the requirements of the city charter.
Okay, with that being said, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the resolution to put this to a vote of the residents of International Falls.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilor Deitch. Discussion? I would just say, in the 6 years I've been on City Council, this is the 7th time that this has come up. So I'm very happy that Mr. Carlson took the initiative to do this, and yes, I helped him at the end because of a time crunch to get the signatures, because there was a petition that came in, and the petition that came in was not valid. So we did race to try to get it done in the last week. My whole goal on this is, since it comes up so frequently on City Council about chickens, it just seems either we're way off on City Council, we're making the wrong decision, or we need to confirm the decisions that we've made that we have not allowed chickens in the city. So let's leave it to the residents of International Falls. Let them make the decision, and we'll move forward from here on November 3rd. So if there's no other discussion, I'll call. Oh, please.
I know that City Administrator mentioned that all the petitioners were able to see the ordinance. What about the general population? Are we going to publish this somehow so that before the November 3rd election, the people will know what the ordinance reads before they can vote yes or no on it?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, absolutely. I believe, and I'm doing this from memory, but I believe there's a requirement in the charter that we publish the question, and that's why you see the official election notice. I believe it's at least 5 days and not more than 20 days before the election on November 3rd, so it will be published. And at the time that it's published, we will be including a copy of the ordinance in its full text so that everybody understands what the ordinance says, so they understand what ordinance will go in place. And the charter is very clear that the ordinance that is considered in the petition and that goes forward has to be without alteration. So basically, the ordinance that you see there is the one that would go forward. I would envision, and I believe it's listed on there, that it will go in section 11-7, which is in the city zoning code, in a section that's reserved. Section 11-6 has something in it, so it would be the next section. So if it gets approved by a majority of the voters on November 3rd, it'll be a binding and valid ordinance of the city, and it'll show up in our zoning code, chapter 11, section 11-7.
Okay.
Another question would be that it says building permits are not required, but is our building inspector going to inspect these buildings to ensure that they're in compliance with the ordinance, or how will that work?
Are not required for 120 square feet or less.
Right.
But still,
Right.
I mean, I know what you're saying.
Right, but
it's-
I'm, so far as spelling out,
Right.
about the window,
Window size.
the
and
window
everything else,
size,
yeah.
heated, ventilated, all those kind of things. My concern is, are we going to tie up the building inspector going around and having to inspect all these, or is it going to be on a complaint system when people are complaining that?
Well, and one of the things that we just had the conversation about when we had our budget and finance meeting before last council meeting, before you got appointed counselor at large, we are looking at a potential code enforcement officer, a full-time code enforcement officer starting next year. This would be something that would be put on that plate, I'm assuming, along with other stuff. So I really appreciate that thought about the size and the building restraints, but I think we will have a code enforcement officer that would be able to go around. They would be doing routine checks on places anyways, so.
And Mayor, if I may expand on that, the reason why the 120 square feet is in there is that is a provision that was included in the ordinance that actually has been adopted by the city of Duluth. And the building inspector has indicated that the building code has an exemption for any structure under 120 square feet. So if you want to buy a 8x8 shed from Menards or some other lumber yard and stick it in the back of your yard, you don't have to get a building permit to try and do that. So as long as it's less than 120 square feet, which would be 10 by 12, a permit is not necessary. However, property owners still need to comply with whatever the zoning codes are in terms of the setback from the side lot line or the rear lot line. And if there was complaints or issues with that, then that's something that the city could follow up on. But you don't have to pay and obtain a building permit before you would put something like this up, as long as it's less than 120 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Did you have a point as well? Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
this probably isn't the time to do this, but can this ordinance be modified? I see they have 10 chickens. 10 chickens make quite a mess.
I agree, and no, it cannot be modified. It has to be unmodified.
Oh, you asked them the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And-
I've got 6 chickens and mine free roam, free range, but at night, boy, I tell you, it doesn't take long to make a mess.
And Counselor, I would assume that your chickens that you have are outside the city currently, so
Yes,
it's on
they are.
property that outside. No, I want to make that clear.
Correct.
You wouldn't have brought it up.
Wow. So, yeah, no, that was actually one of the things, because I did work with Alex after the council meeting on Monday, and he was very adamant about the 10 chickens. The Duluth ordinance specifically, I believe, is 5. But he was adamant on the 10 chickens, so it was left in there, and this is essentially his petition. I helped him put it together, and I helped him get the signatures, but this is coming from a resident, and I wanted to be as transparent of what his intentions were. So yes, it is 10 chickens, and it has to be unchanged.
All right, thank you.
Is there going to be a fee for this permit?
No. It would be unpermitted. It would be like a dog. So, all right, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution to send this to the electors of International Falls on the November 3rd ballot. I'll call the question.
Aye.
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 And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 4-0. Ken, is there anything else we need for this to move forward?
Well, Mayor, we do have to submit this. You and I need to sign the resolution. It needs to be at the county auditor's office today in order to get on the ballot for the November 3rd election. So before you leave, we need to sign it. We'll have a certification statement that goes with it, and then I will be obtaining an acknowledgement when I take it over to the county auditor's office that they received it before the deadline. So just your signature, and then it should be good to go.
And Tim, did you want to bring anything to attention of the council? No? Please.
I'm in favor of the chickens. I'm disappointed with this council putting it back on the people to have to make your decision and do your job for you. That's wrong. This should have been solved a long time ago. You should have got a committee together, went through this, the deal that's going down with the vote. And it's just like Councillor Deitch said, there's a lot of things that 10 chickens is a lot of chickens. You could have shortened that up. You could say maybe this part of town is not a good place, the houses are too close, whatever. There's a whole bunch of things you could have done with it, and you should have to pay for a permit. I agree with Mr. Bueller. If you put all them things together, then maybe you would have been able to vote it in and had a provision ready to go instead of pushing it this far. To me, that's just a disappointment. But I hope it passes, and people are bringing it up all the time. I don't think you're going to have chickens in every house. I really don't believe that's going to happen. But there are places in the city that are, say, rural compared to living, right down here. Maybe some of these homes are close together, but that's all. I didn't get to sign the petition the second time because I was working. There's a lot of people I know didn't get a chance to sign it again after we found out it wasn't valid or whatever happened there. I'm not sure, but I hope it passes. But like I said, I think if you guys would have just stepped back, not voted on it, worked on that resolution a little more, or the policy, whatever you want to call it, and maybe you would have come to a consensus to put it forth and put it to bed.
Well,
and I think, like you said, there's going to have to be somebody checking on it now and then. And I think by licensing it, and maybe you can do that in the future if it passes, that's how you do that. Every city I've looked at online, you pretty much got to get a license, most of them. And the list of cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, you can have chickens, but you can't have them in International Falls. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not sure if we're headed or behind the curve there with going forward, but that's all.
No, I
but I'm glad you guys passed it. Thank you.
No, I appreciate the comments. And I think that's, I think you actually brought up some really good points. We have had different ordinances over the last 6 years for sure, and each one of them had been voted down for various reasons. And it's going to be a controversial vote regardless, and we'll just see where it's at. We had a little bit more back history when we were doing our comprehensive plan. We had pop-up events around town, and we had a group from out of town, and one of the two questions that we had asked residents is, should we have chickens in the city, and should we allow deer hunting in the city to keep control of the deer population? Both of them were unbelievably beaten in general polls, and that was the conversation that I had with Alex that got us to this point. He had never heard that we had these pop-up events and these conversations, and it was just a sampling of the city, and so I think we've tried to do our due diligence to address the chickens in the past, and this council, the past council, and the first council I sat on, every time it's been voted down on a unanimous vote. So either we're not doing our jobs and we're not taking care of our constituents. So if that's the case, I think it's time for the voters to be able to look and make the decisions for themselves. So thank you for your comments. I do appreciate it.
Will you be able to, let's say if it passes, then can you amend that thing then?
No,
The rules or whatever?
no.
Mayor, the only way it can be modified or changed is again by a vote of the people or deleted, so.
So, all right, with no other items of business on the agenda, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.